Catila, how are
Yeah,
you? What's
I'm
going
good. How are
on?
you? Got my coffee, got some water,
Yeah,
we're
me
ready.
too. Ready to go have a little chat. So yeah, I mean, how are you? And keeping well?
Good.
Good, good. So yeah,
A
like
lot happening.
basically for anybody who doesn't know you, which I say most people tuning in are probably gonna be tuning
Mm-hmm.
in to listen to you, but say for a few people on my side, do you want to like tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your story? Who are you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll explain because a lot of people know me from my It's Catila Instagram, which obviously
Mm-hmm.
originally started off as just a music Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was actually like a few years ago when I came back from Australia and I was like just back in my hometown in the UK and I'd like been busking all around there and like getting really confident and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just start doing music like randomly. So yeah, that happened. And but then obviously since then the page has taken a complete detour
Yeah.
because like pretty much this year is obviously when I started posting about all of this stuff. But like it definitely that's where I started. That's how a lot of people know me from. It's like that music. But I definitely need to get back into it and start making more. But I think I'm gonna have a whole different vibe now when I do because I want to incorporate all of this other stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, do you work like, are you recording out of the studio, or do you do it all? Is it all self-made? You make your own
I
beats and everything like that? What's
all
the
like
crack?
with me. Yeah, it's all like I just plug it into my laptop. Like my whole EP was recorded at like in a bedroom. It can
Oh,
sound as
sick,
good.
yeah.
I'll let someone tell you otherwise.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, you've got what, 9,000 people following you there on Spotify, I think. 45,000 plays, 45,000 plays this year. Last,
Wow.
well, 20,
I haven't I
2019,
haven't
is it?
looked. Wait, what was that?
2019, like, you've 45,000 plays. So it's the end of
Oh, what?
last year and then coming into this year. I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't even looked. Like I don't keep up to date with it anymore. I probably should. But I think it's because I haven't released it in so long. I'm just waiting because I know like once I drop something, it's gonna be
It'll be all
sick.
over, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So excited.
So what does, tell me this, what does it's Catila with the flip? What's that mean?
It's Catila with the flip. um, it's Catila with the flip. I guess it was from my butterfly knife tricks, and I was
Yeah.
just like, and people be like, "It's Catila with the
Sticking.
flip." Yeah, it was. It's Catila season bitches. That was my bio, and then I was like, "Nah, we need a new one. We need to wipe it clean." So
Yeah.
yeah, because of those. It's pretty sick though.
Sweet. So when you were in Australia, where were you, like, where did you spend most of your time? Where did you travel around?
Um, Literally everywhere. I started off in Perth and I went to like where did I go after Perth? Oh yeah, I went to Cairns and that's like where my heart is. Were we speaking
Mm.
about this today?
Yeah, we had a little chat about Cairns, yeah. You're,
Yeah, like that was I stayed there for a good like 6 months and
yeah.
it was just amazing. And then I lived in Melbourne for the most part, but it was kind of like my base and I would like travel like outside of that
Yeah.
and just like road trips and then always come back to Melbourne because that was like my home. But yeah, I pretty much went everywhere apart from the West Coast, which I'm really sad about because apparently it's beautiful. But hopefully I can go back there.
Yeah.
We'll
Did you
see
get,
with the new
did you
world
get,
order.
yeah, we'll see. If and when the borders are open, like, but
I'm going.
yeah,
I'm going.
yeah, yeah.
For real. Like I need to go back. I was looking into it because I have a friend over there and I was like, save me, like let me come and live with you. And he's like, yeah, come over. And then I look and it's like Australian borders aren't opening till 2021, late
Mm,
2021. And I was like,
late 2021, yeah.
late
Fuck.
2021. What does that mean?
No, that's crazy. And they were pretty harsh because I know I was mentioned to you, I was in Bali when it all started kicking off,
Yeah.
like, and so me and a group of my mates were calling ourselves the final five because we were like watching everybody like just packing up and leaving and running out of the
Yeah.
country. And we're like, no, let's stick it out and see how things go. But one of my mates, he was actually doing doing a month in Bali before he landed in Australia.
Oh,
So we had this like crazy moment where we got to Nusa Penida and we just landed on the island, and then he got a phone call saying he was meant to leave on like the Monday, and they were saying, you've got 24 hours to get to Australia or they're closing the borders. So
no
he
way.
literally, yeah, as we were in the first cafe there when we pulled in, he did a U-turn, got a boat back to the airport and was in the queue at the plane waiting to get on it, and they were ringing the Australian like immigrants agency and they're like, no, they didn't answer the phone, so they didn't let him on the
No.
plane. He had paid for a seat, and the poor dude, yeah, he's still like, look, you know, it was just so hard done by, like, you know, when the visa was
And
there.
that's how I feel about now, because obviously that was wave 2, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
like now I'm thinking, okay, we are coming towards wave 2, and I think it's going to be just as bad, if not worse than the first. I mean, that's how they're going to paint it. And I'm thinking, like, if I wanted to leave, I would have to go now, because, like, you know, so it's like we're on this time in it, and it's just getting me stressed out, because I'm like, I don't know what to
It
do.
is.
Go,
But
like, I don't want to get stuck in one place. Like, it's just
yeah,
everyone's
like,
going through it though.
I'm literally meant to be leaving for Colombia tomorrow, like, so that's postponed until they only open the borders on what, the 25th.
Really?
Yeah, I was meant to leave tomorrow to go there for 2 weeks, do
Oh,
ayahuasca. We're gonna make my own ayahuasca. I'll be living with a tribe there for the 2 weeks, and yeah, look, it's pushed back to February, and you know, that's okay. If we'll see how February goes, you know, I'm not.
yeah.
It was kind of like hectic as well, you know what I mean? Just we were waiting for the borders to open back up, which they did in September, and it was like this whole
Oh,
fucking
dude, it
thingy.
sucks so
Yeah.
much, you know, because it's like
So
you have all these plans, and it's just like, wow, we really are in this quote pandemic. Quote big
yeah, it's
quotation
like,
mark.
have
Like
you
sometimes
ever?
you want to act normal, and then you have to remember that this is happening. You know, like you go to do something normal, or you go to like think something normal, like make some sort of plan in your head for like, oh, a few months time, and then you have to be like, oh wait, hang on, coronavirus. You know?
It's like, yeah, it's just it kind of, for me, like I was kind of in a bit of like a shock when I got back, because I'm going from, you know, being in Australia, tropical beaches, and then Asia, to boom, being back in my house and not even being in the house because you had to do your whole 2 weeks. So that
Yeah.
stage, I was like, I was basically just had a man cave out the back, so that was grand. Had a bed, a fridge, TV out there. It was my own little fucking spot. But Jesus, you know, going from being in a shed basically,
Yeah.
compared to where I was, it was like, oh Jesus. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a crazy year, but I am grateful for all that time to slow down, because I'm one of them people who goes at like a mad pace, you
Yeah.
know. And I just there's a big shift, like even with
Mm-hmm.
like, so the where I'm doing my breathwork class, teaching my first class this evening at
Yes,
7 o'clock. I'm
I'm the joy.
super excited for that. And yeah.
Volunteers
Let's let
tribute.
let's do one on Zoom sometime. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Oh, we could do
100%.
one like even like on Instagram Live. That would be so cool.
That's a great idea. Yeah, actually, let's do that. Let's do that.
Awesome, because then yeah, we can join together, and then it's both. Yeah, sick.
It's both of us. Yeah. Have you ever
Like,
done any? Have you ever done it?
so obviously, because growing up with asthma, one thing I had to learn was how to control my breathing, and how to stay calm, and how to really breathe deeply to like open the airways. Like it was something I had to do, because you know, if I was in a time where I'm having an asthma attack, if I start panicking, I'm dead. Like I could literally be
Yeah.
dead within a few minutes. Like if I start freaking out and like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it can get bad. So yeah, I always had to learn how to like in through the nose, like hold, breathe right down, you know, out. Like, and that was something that was so drummed into my head as like a child, that now that I'm older, I'm like, oh thank God that I learned that, because it's so valuable. Not
Yeah.
even just like it helps with everything, even being in like situations where you're feeling a bit sort of tense and you just need to quickly breathe, you know, it helps with everything. So it's definitely such a valuable thing, that so we need to, more people need to know about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's there's a big shift as well. Like, I mean, if our governments really did care about us, they'd be, you know what I mean? Like, everybody knows that, like, vitamins, there's all these sort of like health benefits, things that don't cost a whole lot of money, things that aren't profitable for big pharma. You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways. It's like, okay, inform people of what's going on, but also, you know, I'm telling them to be cautious. Like this, one of my Swedish friends says, he says the way they have it over there, it's like a national kind of mindset. It's be cautious, not anxious. But when you look around the UK and Ireland, it's like fucking hell, fear.
Fear mongering just like everywhere. Like
Yeah.
it's just so tight. That's why I just don't even watch the news. Like, I just don't
I can't.
I'll read the news, but I don't like, because how they
can't.
just word it, how they paint it out is like they're terrifying people, and you can see they're terrifying people, because the suicide rate is like the highest it's been. I can't remember what the statistic was, but like I'm pretty sure it's like in over 50 years, something crazy, or like the highest it's ever been in some long time frame, bro. I can't believe it, but I mean I can. but I'm also just like,
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And there's an Irish doctor who's after, well, he's after being fired, but he was one of the most respected doctors in the country until he started speaking out against these
yeah,
anti-lockdown laws. And then you look at it, he's after being fired, but he's saying one of his biggest things, he's like, we haven't seen the effects of the mental health on people yet because we haven't got to the winter.
oh,
You don't know how this is going to play into next year. And it's
oh,
like there's obviously when you have the World Health Organization flipping around that this week, like they've literally come out and turned around on everything they've said, and they're now saying that lockdowns shouldn't be put in place. Like I know a lot of nurses who are in hospitals in Ireland, and they're saying they have nothing to do. The hospitals are empty, like because
yes,
nobody's going. It's just ridiculous, like so.
criminal. It's criminal because, in my opinion, I'm like, hospitals are empty, and right, I say, okay, for example, my nan, she was having such a hard time getting doctor's appointments and getting help and like the right treatment that she needed for like all of her conditions. She ended up passing away a couple of weeks ago, and I can't help but think, if we weren't in the middle of this pandemic and she was receiving the right care, would she still be alive? And like a lot of my family believe the answer to that is yes, she would, because she got messed around, appointments were getting cancelled, like, and then looking at it and realizing that most of the hospital beds are empty, you're just like, wait, this don't add up somewhere, something's going on. And I can't help thinking about all of the unrelated, like the coronavirus unrelated deaths, like people that, you know, aren't going for their general checkups because they're scared of leaving the house, little old ladies that are just so terrified of this disease, you know, they're staying in, they're wearing the mask, they're weakening their immune system, they're not going and getting like the right medication that they need for any of their other illnesses or whatever they have going on. So it's just, this is, and yeah, as you said,
Cancer patients, like cancer patients as well, like yeah, not being able to go into hospitals and do what they need for their body. It's just, it's there's look, any fucking crisis like this, people who have money, corporations, they see it as just another chance to make profit, and that's what it is. Panic is profitable, and crisis is an opportunity to grow richer. So you know, we can see that with like the fucking top billionaires on the planet. They're making so much more money right now.
yeah, oh, they're making a lot.
Yeah.
What I was saying about, go on.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, this is what I was saying about the vaccines, because like how many people are putting money into this? Like, you know, it's not just going to be like they're just going to say, oh, it's okay, you don't have to get it. Like when I'm looking at how much money they're putting into this and how big scale they're looking at rolling it out, I'm like, this ain't going to be an easy yes or no decision. I mean, if you say yes, obviously that's an easy decision, but it's not going to be easy to say no. Like, they're putting a lot of money into it for a reason. They're blowing this out of proportion for a reason, and we have to like look deeper to see what that reason is. But it's hard, isn't it? 'Cause you don't want to predict something and then like have it wrong. But if we look at where they're going, it just makes sense that we're getting pushed into this corner.
It's tragic, like especially when you see like how the news medias and the outlets have been bought out, like because I was in Exeter, like in England, studying journalism, like, and for me, like journalism traditionally
Got that all down me.
yeah.
Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
For God's sake. That's funny. Right, go on.
But basically, like what journalism's for, it's for keeping the governments and corporations in check. But like that's what traditionally journalism is for. And now it's been completely skewed. Like when I was in Exeter, one of my first lectures, they told me it's okay to lie to the public. Like they were literally like, you don't have to tell the truth. Just tell people what your bosses want you to tell them. And I was like, oh, fuck this, you know, like,
imagine you're getting into that industry and you really want to do good in it.
Make a change, yeah.
Yeah, you're hearing this and you're just like, wait, this isn't what I signed up for. Huh?
Yeah, you know, so it's like, thank fuck for podcasts and for like independent media outlets online now. Like people like, even Joe Rogan's fucking great for like, he gets people on that like, you know, literally aren't being bought out, you know?
Yeah. It's just a shame that a lot of these people get silenced. Like they actually actively do what they can to silence them and hide them from the algorithm. When you search people's names, it doesn't come up. Like it's mental.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it makes sense when you understand who owns all of that as well.
Have you ever heard of Adam Curtis?
Sorry, say that? again?
Adam Curtis. Have you heard of him?
No, who's that?
No, he's a British documentary filmmaker. He works for the BBC, but he was on Russell Brand's podcast on one of the first episodes. It's still on Spotify, so I know he's switched over. But basically, he's made a documentary. It came out in 2016, and it's called Hypernormalization. So the whole premise of this documentary is that the people who run the world know that we know that they lie to us, but they don't care because they know that we know. But at this stage, it's so far gone, they can just keep lying because nothing ever changes. And so it's quite a gloomy fucking documentary because he looks at how Putin stayed in power. Because obviously, you know, like in Russia, Putin's been there for almost 15 to 20 years now. Yeah. So the interesting thing is he hired a guy called Dmitry Surkov, who is a pantomime operator. Like, well, he writes pantomimes. So what him and Putin sat down, like, okay, how do we keep control of the country? So it's like, right, what we do is we fund the neo-Nazis, then we fund the liberals, and then we put it on TV and we tell the public we're doing this. And so you do something like this, and gradually people are so disheartened and so confused, they literally stop caring. And like, so this is his whole thing in the documentary, is that Trump has looked at these techniques that Putin has used and is doing the same in America. And that's when you see like how he got into power, he used that technique perfectly. Like I remember during the election, he stood on stage and he's like, see everybody here, all my opponents, I own them. I've bought every single one of them, right? And that's a broken system. He's like, so this system's fucking broken. Yeah. If I call any of these and ask them for a favor, do you know what? They're gonna do it. And he's like, so you're telling me that's real politics? No, it's not. And so it's like this crazy idea of like, basically we're at this stage where we all know the system's fucked, but we're so used to it that we don't know what to do about it. Yeah, and then
that's it, because it's like you can't just keep chipping away at the puppets, you know. You've got all these puppets on strings and we can get as many of those as we want. And that's why I kind of feel like the celebrities and people like Ellen DeGeneres and like Tom Hanks and like all of these people being given to us as like sort of bait, and all of this stuff is coming out about, like, you know, in regards to like the more conspiracy theory, which I believe is fact, like Pizzagate and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it kind of feels to me like they're giving us a little bit, but not the whole thing. And it's like it goes along with what you're saying, that they know we know the truth, but it doesn't fucking matter at this point. So
it's like, what do you do? And for me, it comes back to, as an individual, you know what I mean? Taking responsibility and changing. Like Lao Tzu says in the Tao Te Ching, it's like, if you want to change the world, start with yourself, and then that has a rippling effect. So like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So like for yourself, how did it happen for you? Like, how did you start waking up to, like, say, a higher level of consciousness and this sort of stuff?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess I have always been very anti the system, just because I never really fit into it. And I remember through school, I was just very confused by it all. It didn't make sense to me. And I think the pinnacle moment where I realized, like, okay, so this wasn't my spiritual awakening, but it was me waking up to the truth about our world. So you have to go through the stages of like each one. It's not just like one thing happens and you're awake. It's like a whole process. And I'm still in the middle of it right now, you know, even though I know I've come a long way. But back then, it was just me really waking up to the system. And I remember sitting in my business exam in college, and now I was really good at business. I got an A-star at GCSE. It was just something that clicked with me. I just understood it. And the only thing I wasn't good at was writing really, really fast. So we're in this exam and it's like 2 hours, and I get to the last, I think it was like the last 4 or 3 questions, which were like the big, you know, like 38 mark answers. And I look on the clock and I've got like 15 minutes left. And I look back at the bit of paper and I've got these 4 questions, and I skim through them all, and I know the answer to every single one, and I could pretty much get max points on all of them. Like, I was that confident. And I was just like, it hit me in that moment, like, oh my God, like the highest I can get on this exam because of how many questions I've answered is probably around a C. Okay. Now I'm being graded not on my intelligence. It's nothing to do with that. It's about how fast I can recite information in a given time limit, in a given time scale. And I just sat there and I was like absolutely baffled by it all. And I was like, are you telling me I'm going to fail this, or I'm not going to live up to my potential, and I'm not going to have this degree because I couldn't write fast? Like, I was sat there and I was like, no, surely not. Like, it just all hit me at once. And I was just like, at that point, I just dropped out. Quite literally, I remember calling my mom and I just said no. And actually, I watched a video, you might have seen it, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's a video called If Money Wasn't an Object.
Alan Watts.
Yes, Adam Watts.
That is so funny that you say that, because around I think 18, I watched that video as well, and it was like one of those moments, like, yeah, it was literally one of those moments, yeah.
He goes, if money wasn't an object, what would you be doing? And I was like, well, certainly wouldn't be here. And I realized,
that's so crazy. Yeah, you're saying that.
Wow, because wait, what age do you start? I was 18, yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So we both had that sort of awakening at that point.
Yeah, Alan Watts is he's amazing. And you know what's really cool? You should check out South Park have done a little clip where they've taken say like 12 minutes of his best little bits, and then they've put it in with some of their animation. It's fucking great.
Oh, nice. It's great. Oh, it's so powerful. Like the video I watched, it just hit hard, and it just makes you really evaluate things. And yeah, I was just like, no, not doing this anymore. So after that, because obviously I was thinking if money wasn't an object, where would I be? What would I be doing? I thought, well, I'd be traveling. I'd be in the sun. I'd be on the beach. I'd be under palm trees. I'd be living my best life. So I went and got a full-time job, and I started working. I was in Nando's, and it was actually one of the best jobs ever because I got loads of free chicken and just free everything, really. And so I saved up, went Australia, and that was pretty much the beginning of, I would say, that whole awakening experience. I mean, so much has happened. I wouldn't know quite where to pinpoint it, because I think along the way, like, there was just different lessons that I think now in 2020 have all come together. Like, I think a lot of people can agree 2020 has been a different type of awakening. It's like, you thought you were woke before, you thought you understood shit before, no you didn't, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah,
so it just feels like since I went traveling, and you know, because before I went traveling, I was quite a materialistic, three-dimensional person. I was quite, even though I was aware of the system and how corrupt it was and all of this, I still hadn't awakened to that level of that we are more than this. And I was very much so about my fashion and my jewelry and things like that. And so when I went to Australia, it was like I was just living out of a suitcase, and I had to learn how to let go of all of those things. And another thing I realized is, like, I met so many people that I wouldn't usually give the time of day back then, because I was very like, if you're not into the same music as me, if you're not into the same fashion as me, like, we're probably not going to be friends. But as soon as I went to Australia, I met people from all walks of life, all cultures, everywhere, like, you know, and hippies, like people that were just dressed in like just anything, and they were like the best people. And it taught me that, like, this doesn't mean anything. What you have, how much money you've got, what clothes, what brand you wear, does not mean a thing, because the best people I've met in my life are free of all of that. So yeah, and then that's a whole nother story, you know, like it just going. Did
you end up in Byron Bay?
Yes, went to Byron Bay. That was so good.
It's my one regret. Look, things worked out the way they worked out. I'll get there eventually, but I never got there. I had my heart set in it. And look,
it's one of those places that you just need to visit. You need to go and stay in, because obviously I stayed in it because I'm an Aquarius, but there's a hostel called Aquarius.
Okay.
It's so obviously I saw it and was like, well, gotta stay there.
Yeah. No, not even a question, like.
But yeah, that it's a really awesome spot, like, and it's right near the beach, and they've got like a pool, and they do all these like cool nights and like have all this just cool stuff happening constantly, so you need to stay there. I'd really advise staying there when you go back.
Did you know, here's a fact for you, that there is a giant store of amethyst crystal underneath Byron Bay, like in the ground. There's loads of amethyst crystal, and that's why traditionally Aboriginals who live near Byron Bay would go there for their birthing ceremonies, because it's a really, really strong like pull of feminine energy in Byron Bay, and that's what brings everybody there.
Wow! Oh,
Yeah, I met a Reiki healer down in Melbourne, and she was telling me all about this and why I needed to go. So I was really, really drawn there, and unfortunately, I didn't get there. But cool thing is, in Keene Bay in Ireland, Achill Island, there's one of the biggest amethyst stores underneath Achill.
oh,
And that's voted as like, I think, the 8th most beautiful beach in the world. But I
wow.
went down there and did some meditation during the summer, and it was
Wow.
it's such a cool spot. Like, yeah, it's cold. It's not as warm as Byron Bay. It hasn't got the
Yeah.
party life
Oh,
stuff, but
you'll
it's
get there.
like,
You will get there. It's funny that you said
absolutely.
that, like that you feel drawn towards Byron Bay, because
Mm,
the reason I decided to go to Australia was because I watched a documentary about Byron Bay. I was
mm.
sat there and I was watching it this one day, and I was like, oh my God, these people are just around a campfire playing music. Like they're just like doing all this, surfing and like all this cool stuff. And I literally saw this documentary and I was like, that's where I'm going.
Mm,
I'm going there. And yeah, I did it. But you've got to go back, dude. I
yeah,
want to go back knowing the things I know now, because like when
yeah.
I was there, I didn't know what I knew now. Like now I know what I know. When I travel, I'm just going to suss out all the best spots. I'm just going to do
Oh,
it
that's
all.
it.
Can't
Oh, there's
wait.
so many traps you can fall into. Like I
Mm.
love Melbourne, but I was planning on staying there for 3 weeks.
Oh,
Four months later, I was still there. It's like, but it's fucking great. It's
great.
obviously like St Kilda's like a rite of passage. Everybody just kind of lands there and goes
Thank
through
you.
it.
Did
Like,
you go to
yeah.
Brunswick?
Brunswick, I didn't. I ended up living in not too far from Brunswick. Why is the name escaping me now? Literally straight out past it. Oh, it's gone. I can't think of
It's
it. It'll pop
something.
back into my head.
Yeah, it'll
It'll
come. It'll
pop
come back
back
later
to
on
it.
in the
Yeah, yeah.
conversation or on a
Literally
different
just
topic.
outside St Kilda. But yeah, it's great city. Those penguins on the beach, and that drumming circle down by the beach every Thursday night. I was there
I
on
didn't
St
see
on
that.
St Kilda Beach. Yeah, that was
Oh,
sick.
I live the opposite side to St Kilda. St Kilda. So St Kilda was down here, right? I was like up in Brunswick, Preston.
Okay.
Yeah, but anywhere in Melbourne, super sick. But you do just get stuck places, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
That happened to me with Cairns. I was only meant to be there for like a, a few weeks, as you said, but like
Yeah.
5 months later, I've like got 2 jobs. I'm like working there, having the best time.
Nice. Where did you do your farm work?
Right. So I I didn't actually do farm work.
Yeah.
I got pretty lucky, but because of the postcode that he was in, like he was just like, yeah, we'll
Just
just do
tick that
it.
off, sure.
But
Yeah.
actually, I was at a outdoor activity center, and I was teaching kids how to do like rock climbing, kayaking, archery. I would go out on like the kayaks. Like we had like a boat, jet skis. It was absolutely amazing. Like obviously I would do some of the hard graft, like the cleaning and like painting of the fences and things like
Yeah.
that, but I wasn't actually doing farm work. It was actually really great experience. And like,
Mm.
but one thing I noticed is like when I was there, or after I had been there for about a year, like just over a year, like I started taking things for granted. Like I would go out on the boat and I'd be like, oh, I'm just on a boat. Like but I knew that in the future I would look back and I would be angry that I took it for granted. And I'm
Yeah.
in that moment right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I need
It's
to be
it,
back there.
it's funny. I can relate to what you were saying as well about going through that materialistic stage, like, because I
Yeah.
was running my own business back home, and like when I started it off before I left for Australia, like in 2019, so I was running like a meal prep company. So I would like do people's macros and get calorie count for them, and do food for them Monday to Friday. And I did it for my core purpose was because I wanted to help people and see them benefit from it. Yeah, 3 months in there, you're making money and you're constantly getting like more customers coming on, and it's like you're getting all these messages on Instagram and Facebook as well. It's like bigger, 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 more, and it like drills it into your head. And so like I was going after that, and yeah, after like a year I was like, I've got all the financial success, it's all there, what everything that like life, that society
Yeah, it's
promises will bring
supposed to
you
be.
joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I just feel empty, and I was like, there was some family situations as well, losing dad at a young age, and me feeling like I had to be there for my mother. So I was like, I did
Yeah.
feel like I was needed. So I had a massive amount of guilt attached to leaving and going traveling. But Jesus, it was the best thing I've ever did. Like,
I can relate with that because you
Yeah.
feel like you want to stay and protect your family and the people
Mm,
that you need to go and be free and do your own life. So you kind of like you get a bit stuck
yeah.
there.
If
But
you're
yeah, Go on.
If you're staying here and like only living life at like a quarter or even half of your potential, and then being you
Yeah.
know, sad, dead inside because of that, and then like, you know, you're not doing any justice for your family. You know, they like, we all want to see the best for each other. So it was
Yeah.
like one of those things that I
Yeah.
really, you know, traveling, it does wake you up so much. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But in regards to what you said about like wanting more and more and more, I was actually having this conversation with my mum like the other day, and I said that like one thing that really stuck out to me, I don't know if it's a quote, but it was like, if you don't appreciate where you're at, you'll never be happy with where you get to, or something like that. If you don't appreciate where you're at, you won't be happy where you get
Where
to.
you
And I
get,
was like,
yeah.
that's so true, because if you're never happy in this moment, and obviously in the music industry, I know a lot of people that are like, you know, they get 10,000 views, then they want 100,000, then that's not enough, and they want the 500, then they want the million, and like they're never ever 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 happy. And it happens, and the same thing happens with like cars. Everyone wants like the newest, the this, the that, like just everything. People are always chasing, like they're always just chasing what's ahead of them instead of being appreciative of this
The
moment
present
right
moment,
here.
yeah.
That is so powerful, is just being in the present moment and just being grateful for what's around you, because then wherever you get to, you're going to be grateful. If you're constantly wanting, you're going to keep wanting, because you're soon going to realize that nothing external, nothing that money can really buy, nothing materialistic can fill that hole within your heart, your soul. You'd have to do that yourself, and that includes,
Yeah.
you know, going and living your life and like healing all of these past traumas.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah, you can't
working
run
on
away from
yourself. It's very interesting. Like the, or in the Aboriginal cultures, they say we have three brains. We have a brain in our head, a brain in our heart, and a brain in our stomach.
oh
So, you know, the brain in our heart is where the brain in your heart. So is where a heart center, the heart space is where they spend most of their time being conscious.
yeah
You know, and when you're living from there, you're living from compassion and empathy for other things. And you use this brain, the one in your stomach, for food. And that obviously, with their culture being hunters and gatherers, that takes up quite a lot of time.
yeah
And this one up here, this tool, is for being creative, you know, making judgmental decisions. And you know, it's a tool to be used, but not something that dominates our lives. And that's what
yeah
happens, is the brain can't be satisfied. You're constantly trying to like get more and more and more. And that's because we spend our lives all in here. And for
yeah
me, that's what, like, if I look at, like, say, how would you say, like, five-dimensional consciousness, is looking at like stepping into a higher level of being.
yeah
That's, it's not a new thing, it's an ancient thing. We're just going back to what
yeah
we've unlearned, what we've forgotten. And that
yeah
is living from here for me. Yeah,
yes
like
always
the flower of life meditation is a beautiful one. Drunvalo
Mhm,
Melchizedek is his name.
mhm.
His meditation on YouTube is just about being conscious and sitting here. And I've done it. I used to do it in Melbourne, just sit in the botanical gardens and just
Oh,
move my focus down, and I would just see these beautiful auras and like the energies around the birds and the trees. Once I got out of my analytical brain and moved down, you know. And it's
wow, that's
like we
amazing.
all.
It's so interesting you say about the analytical brain, because so I was watching this documentary, and it explains about like the right and the left hemisphere. And I
Mm,
might have these mixed up, but I'm pretty sure the left hemisphere of your brain is responsible for all of like the past, future thinking. It's about, you know, numbers, letters, remembering things, whereas the right side of your brain is like your creativity, it's your free thinking, it's your, and so basically it was about how the education system really, really focuses on that left hemisphere,
mm,
pumping you full, just getting you constantly like thinking numbers and remembering. It's about like sequences and remembering things, and just like very analytical. And it spends so much, and basically they try and like kill off this side of your brain, because this side is the side that when something like coronavirus happens, we go, hang on, this doesn't make sense. This side is the
mm,
free thinking, like critical thinking sort of side, where you're just like, hang on, like I've got free will here, like I'm a creative, I'm a human being, like this doesn't make sense to me. Whereas they aim so much time at trying to progress this side of your brain that a lot of people forget that that even exists, and they forget their creativity.
mm,
I think someone like you and me, I think like some people are born with like a stronger analytical side or a stronger creative side, and like so
mm.
always been more creative. Like I'm not good with,
Absolutely, yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that a lot of people within this movement that have been able to wake up to this stuff are quite creative in nature, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Absolutely. I did I did 2 days out in nature. Like I just literally went up and just lit a fire and just sat there in silence at nighttime. Spent my days going around, just walking around, being by the rivers. And then when it started to get dark, I would go forage and get loads of sticks and just
yeah,
for my fire at nighttime. But like the place that put my brain into just sitting by the fire with nothing around but just me. And I did do it because I've always had this little bit of like, fear that's been, programmed into me about being in nature on my own, about like
yeah,
literally being in a dark forest surrounded by nothing but, the
yeah,
trees. So I was like, right, fuck it. I'm going to go out here and prove to myself that there's nothing, that like it's all just bullshit and that there's nothing to be scared of. But what
right.
that did for me was amazing, where the place it brought my brain to. It's just,
Wow.
I was like, I understand how poets could get so creative by just sitting and being out in nature, because my mind was in a beautiful, beautiful, very introspective like place. And
That's right. Like
yeah.
I can relate with that with lyrics. When you're trying too hard and when you're around too much, you can't write. And naturally, when you just clear the mind of anything and you're just like, you're not thinking of anything, like things just come to you and you're able to write so elegantly, like beautifully. Like the songs that I've wrote when it's just come to me are my favorite, and the ones that I put too much effort into, I actually don't really like now. And it's just such an interesting I don't know, it's just interesting that like when you quiet the mind, just more, it's almost as if the source comes through and the source speaks. It's like it's almost not coming from you. It's like it's actually just a natural, I don't know what you
It's
call
coming
it.
from a higher place. Joe
Yes.
Rogan calls it the muse. That's his word for it. Is the muse. But yeah, you're tapping into something like, or as Carl Jung would call it, the collective unconscious. We're tapping into
Yeah.
something that's like a much higher. It's not our
Yeah.
subconscious mind, but we're all interconnected to it. It's like the internet of the minds, almost. Like
Yes, that's how it feels. That's how it
Yeah,
feels. Oh, mental.
it really is. It's very
Mhm.
interesting. So yeah, what age did you first start like writing your own lyrics? So it's been your whole life, is it? Or when did you say produce your first song? What was that?
Probably like 2017,
Yeah.
2018 was my
Yes,
first
yeah.
song. But yeah, no, I hadn't really wrote lyrics prior to that. And actually, I write lyrics kind of weird because what I like to do is like the first time I'll hear a beat, like it has to be the first time I hear the beat, otherwise
Yeah.
it won't work. So I'll play a beat and I would just have my mic recording and I'll record like a natural hum, a natural melody, and there won't be any lyrics. It'll just be like a da, 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 like just literally humming, or just like where the syllables would be. And naturally that is kind of like the best flow that will come to me, whereas if I sit with the beat for too long and I listen to it too much, I won't be able to do it. So it's like the first time I play the beat, the first flow that comes to mind, I record it, and then from there I will apply lyrics to that. But yeah, lyric writing I wouldn't say is like my strongest point. It's more of like the melodies that I can make quite beautiful melodies, like just is quite intricate with how I do it, and I don't know how it just again
Just
it just
comes to
comes.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, but lyric wise, I think for me, like lyrics don't even matter to me. It's all
Yeah.
about the sound, the sound. Some songs I listen to that's in like a different language, like it just hits me still, and I don't know what they're saying, because it's not about the lyrics per se. It's about like how that music makes you feel. Although I do
Yeah.
appreciate good lyrics, don't
Yeah,
get
but
me wrong.
the passion that's in it as well. It's like there's
Yeah.
something deep that can move you with it. Yeah, like I do a lot of it. You know those basically hip hop beats with no lyrics that are used for concentration. What are they called?
Ooh.
Either on YouTube.
Oh, lo-fi.
Lo-fi, exactly. Yeah, I use lo-fi all the time for when I want to get
Yeah.
creative, because
Yeah.
I just feel it, and it just kind of gets me in that little zone, and then I'm
Yeah.
relaxed and I'm
Yeah.
focusing in on what I'm doing. Classical music works too. That does
Yeah.
work for me, but I like lo-fi because I relate more to it, and it's more my kind of style, So it's like,
So lo-fi is good for like in the morning, at night. Like I always put on. Have you seen the live stream that's on YouTube that's just on 24/7?
yeah, yeah,
That's
I
the
have,
one.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Any time of day, any
yeah.
emotion, any event, like it's just so good. It's just, mm.
It's
sometimes I'll
interesting.
rap along.
Yeah, and what you're saying as well about like getting creative and when you're in a quieter headspace, have you ever heard of a Schumann resonance? So, right,
Go on.
yeah, basically it's 538 hertz, so it's a natural vibrational frequency of the planet. And this scientist in the 50s or the 60s, what he did was, it's named after him, so he discovered it. He measured the electromagnetic field between the Earth and the Earth's atmosphere. So that ended up being 538 hertz. So he then got some test subjects, put them in an underground bunker, and cut off everything. So there was no vibrational frequency of like life's frequency. It was not there in the plant on where these people were. They ended up like getting sick, growing cancer cells. They were getting hit with all sorts of like different sicknesses. So there's a documentary called Resonance, Beings of Frequency, and what it goes into is how with like Wi-Fi signals and different radiation, we're now changing that vibration. So say for example, like I just found it interesting how you're saying if you were in a room, maybe it's got a TV, bit of Wi-Fi, you've got your phone, all this shit, you might not get in that same creative zone you would as if you're just sitting in a park, you know?
So true. That's definitely a link. I can't believe I didn't like clock that before. Like, yeah, because you know, what was it, Nikola Tesla's quote, if you think of the world in energy, frequency and vibration,
yeah,
you make more progress. What was it, in something? But yeah, that's right actually.
There's two quotes there. So it's the energy, basically I know what the two of them are. So basically if you want to understand the universe, think of it in energy, frequency and vibration. And the other quote is the day science starts to investigate non-physical phenomena, they'll make more progress in a decade than they have in the past 2 centuries.
Yes.
And
that's
absolutely. Freud says the same thing as well, basically, and Sigmund Freud's known as being one of the greatest psychologists or psychoanalysts who ever lived. He's basically the grandfather of modern day psychology. And his thing was, when we start to understand like occult or non-physical phenomena, he's same thing as Tesla said, we'll make much more progress than we have. And like synchronicity, it's something like people kind of like might scoff at and think, oh, this is like, you know, when we talk about like double numbers and what they mean. And like for me, the more I'm aware of it, like the double numbers constantly pop up on my phone. Like, and I was thinking about, say, organizing a breathwork workshop for like a retreat for the weekend in maybe February, and I was saying, should I do it? And as soon as I thought about, boom, like a bird shit on my fucking windscreen, and I was like, there's confirmation. I was like, that is an absolute yes. So like, and
an absolute yes, a bird shit window, and this is a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen out for the signs. And just one thing I want to say, because a lot of people say, oh, if you're aware of it, then aren't you looking out for it more? And I'm like, I get what you're saying, okay, confirmation bias or whatever it is, but it's not quite like that, because in terms of the numbers, when I'm making bad decisions, I don't see them and I will actively look out for them. Like, I mean, I'll be scanning everything everywhere. Like, I'll be looking for the numbers like 1336, because they're my angel numbers, or like 136. It's just that combination. Won't see them anywhere. As soon as I start getting on I call it like my soul path, like the right path for me, the one that's beneficial to me and my growth. As soon as I let go of like toxicity and negativity and like actually move over, they start appearing everywhere again. And so when people say like, oh, it's just because you're looking out for it, I'm like, no, you just haven't experienced it yet, because when you see it yourself, you understand it's not just a coincidence. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, it really is. Like Jung, I have a book by Carl Jung, and it's called Synchronicity. So he basically did scientific tests where he proved that statistically it is much more likely that this is an undiscovered psychic phenomena that we are tapping into, as opposed to being mere coincidence. Like, and he bases this off loads of tests that he did with people. And the book's very interesting for the first 40 pages, because it's more it's like all about the stories and stuff that happen. And then when he goes into the numbers, like the scientific metadata is just, I'm just not academically minded enough to understand it. He's he's a super genius. So I have to kind of go to the little paragraph where he summarizes it all. But
Yeah.
it's a very fascinating read. Like, he had this one client who was a successful businesswoman, and she would not listen to what he was saying. He was telling her that dreams are the key to understanding your psychology and getting by your trauma. And she wouldn't listen. She was like, you know, blaming him, blaming her, looking at everything that was happening around her and not like looking at her dreams. So while he was questioning her, he was saying that there was like a golden scarab, like a big beetle, a golden beetle coming to her.
What golden beetle?
You what?
I've heard about the golden beetle.
Yeah, the scarab beetle. So basically, this was coming to her in her dream, and she was resisting him for weeks. And then one day, there was a big knock on the window. Jung opened up the window and just goes like that, and he's like, "There's your beetle." And the beetle had been knocking on the window. This big beetle. He opened it, caught it, and was like, "There you go, boom."
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it was like stuff like this that happened to him during his clinical practices that made him start looking into the effect of synchronicity and what it was like. So yeah, like for me at the moment, every time I look at my phone, it's double numbers. Every single time I pick it up, and it's not like I'm doing it consciously. It's just there because when I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right things, it's just this reaffirmation from the fucking
like you're on the right track.
source. Exactly, yeah.
The one that happened recently for me that told me I'm on the right track was, you might have read like on my Instagram story about that guy that I met years ago who gave me that book. And obviously I've been thinking, where do I go? And it feels like I'm being called to like just, you know, spread my wings and get out of this country and go travel again. And it's been like pulling me in and drawing me in. And yeah, there was this guy 2 years ago that gave me this book about karma, and we spoke, and he worked in this like cafe that was down my road. And like, you know, when you just have a connection with people, like you just, you know, like when you just catch someone's eye and it's like, you know, that there's a connection there, like there's just an unexplained sort of like thing. It was like that. And anyway, obviously life went on, and I totally like just forgot about that. Well, no, I didn't totally forget about it. I remember because I kept the book, but I didn't know where he went. I never got his name, so it was just like just left that one sort of thing and moved on. But I always wondered where he went, and it always really stood out to me because he taught me a lot, and he didn't even really know, and I always wanted to say thank you, right? And then so I'm thinking about going to Portugal, and I'm looking at all these communities, these off-grid communities, or traveling here, traveling wherever, and someone sent me a link to this Patreon for this off-grid community. And I just pick a video at random, like, and they're all like, you know, half an hour long videos because they just record like a whole thing and put it all together. And I'm watching, and then it gets like 25, 26 minutes in, and I just see this guy, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy. And it's not like the coincidence, the chance of things. I've tried to work it out, and you can't.
There's no like, that's just synchronicity. It's meant to happen. You know what I mean? There is no such thing as coincidence.
Really. I was thinking, what is it telling me? Like, what is this telling me? And I kind of see him as like a token of good, almost like you're on the right path. Like, yes, you are being called. You are following your life's, your soul's journey. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to travel. You're supposed to get out. You're supposed to spread your wings, sort of thing. And it was like seeing him as a reminder, like, this is the right track that I need to go down. So yeah. That was a crazy one for me, crazy. But I sent a message, and we've been speaking, and he says like, yeah, get out of England. And I'm like, this is how I feel. So yeah, definitely a potential.
No, definitely. Like if you're feeling it, get going. You know, it's like, yeah. And like you said, that synchronicity as well. I got a friend of mine that I met in Bali, and she's like definitely on the same wavelength. Like, you know, she just sent me a message. She's like, do you want a job in Lisbon? Come. I was like, that was just a couple of days ago as well. So like, you know,
I know you told me, and I was like, what? That's amazing. Into the world, doing all this shit together. Yeah, so good.
That would be sick. And Lisbon, it's not like Lisbon's been on my or Portugal's been on my radar. Like I've never really thought about going there, you know. So it's like, but then when you start getting these signs,
I was just thinking, like, interesting how like there's certain people, it kind of feels like you're magnets, like, you know, it's just the universe just pulls you to, like that guy, kind of like me and you as well, like the universe is like pulling us together, and it's like at some point we're gonna have we're gonna have to meet, like, because the universe is like, you guys need to meet, and for whatever lesson it is, whatever we're like, even this right here, us meeting and doing this, like, this is the start of something. I always think of everything in my life like the butterfly effect, like, where is this going to take me? This is so beautiful. Like, every situation is just another door opening that you never know where it's going to lead. I'm so excited for the future, actually. I mean, despite the state of the world, I'm like, we just need to get through this and then it can all be good.
Yeah, it kind of makes it's kind of what makes it exciting in a way, because of, like, you know, it's like the polarity. You can't have the good without the bad. So we're all collectively going through this together, and then, you know, it's like,
yep. And
we're going to come out on the better side of it, because I think that's what humanity does. Regardless, we're very, 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 very durable. You know, we've been here for billions of years for a reason, and we're gonna. It's not like this is the end of us. So
no, you know, I just think as well, like, this could be, like, I wouldn't say it's a blessing in disguise, kind of like a blessing and a curse, I guess. Like, it's both in the spectrum, because I don't think if this hadn't have happened, I might have still just been, like, sort of stuck in my comfort zone, if that makes sense. Absolutely. So I don't know whether I would have, like, really had that urge to go out and start traveling again. Like, I always wanted to, but I don't know whether at what point I would have got off my ass and just done it, you know? Because I do get comfortable. That's definitely something that I've been trying to work on. And even when I was in Australia, I wrote notes to myself on my phone saying, like, don't get too comfortable. Like, don't stay somewhere longer than a few months. Like, you want to travel, get out there, do all of this. So yeah, like, it's got to happen after this, after all of this just dies down. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think people will be so much more determined to get out there and live their lives, because they had it all taken away from them. They had a taste of what that feels like, you know?
That's it. It's
what you got till it's gone.
Absolutely. Like, I've never been so grateful for the gifts that I have in my life, and for, like, my own human potential as well. It's like, actually, like, you know, because I would just continuously shy away, and like, even doing this podcast, like, I was only going to do it over audio because I was fairly insecure about putting my face in front of the camera. And, like, it was while I was on ayahuasca, actually, I was having an experience, and Mother Earth was, like, speaking to me, and she's like, Adam, I had a name for the podcast, but I was beating around the bush, and I've been planning it since, like, last November. And she was like, Adam, call it Healing with the Homies, and put yourself in front of the camera. Don't be insecure. Put yourself out there. Step out your comfort zone and watch the rewards come to you. It was like, and it's funny. It wasn't me. It wasn't my subconscious. It was like, boom.
Someone else telling you.
Gentle, nurturing, wise goddess of a mother, like, as they speak about in ayahuasca, is a very, very, very real thing, you know. And it's fucking beautiful. I can't wait to actually do a full episode and go into depth about my whole experience, because it was amazing, and I am definitely looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah, you're killing it. This is obviously where you need to be. This is what you need to be doing. You're you know, since you've started this, you've just been attracting all sorts of, like, crazy things. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You've been called to this for a reason. And I felt like I got called to doing what I was doing, like, a few months ago, in regards of, like, getting all the information out there. And it feels like I kind of completed that mission. So now it's like it's putting me on another mission. It's like life gets you to do these, like, you'll be drawn towards the podcast, and something else might open up, and you'll be like, oh, this was, you know, now that and that and that, and you just get drawn to all of these different missions. It does feel like a mission, I feel, because you know, it's right when it just feels right. So, like, you started doing the podcast and you knew this is where you're supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to be doing. That's how I felt, and that's how a lot of other people have felt with this movement. It's just like, it feels like this is the purpose. Like, we have got to get the word out. We've got to help humanity. It just feels like we're being called to lift the vibration of humanity. Do you agree? Like,
absolutely. That's where I was. Like, I was in a really, really, really bad state where I was ready to check out, like, because I was so full of self-hatred and loathing, and, like, it came on very quick out of the blue, because, like I said, I thought I had all the material fucking gains. I thought I had everything, and I did, you know. I was doing quite successful, but it was successful by society's definition, not by my soul. It's not what I really needed. And so it was like around this point last year in Australia, I started sharing some stuff, and, like, the amount of, like, talking about mental health and stuff, like what I had done to get myself into a good place, and what I'd gone through, and for how long I'd buried it. And it was at that point, you know, so many people were gravitating towards me and saying thank you. And then I was like, okay, so I need to find an avenue through which I can share my journey. And, like, being honest and being authentic is, like, one of the it's one of the key things. Like when people hear truth, they understand it. There's no denying it, you know.
They feel it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, I'm very, very excited for see
Yes.
where the future goes. And we'll definitely
Yes.
meet up somewhere in the near future. I can see it happening. Like, yeah.
It's got to happen.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many opportunities. Like, obviously there was before, but now it feels like I'm really focused on like, wow, I can really do anything. I can really create anything. I can really be where I want, do what I want. You know, like I was even thinking about starting a podcast months ago, and then I didn't really do it. And then I was thinking like, oh, YouTube, and it's just, there's so many, like the life is just so cool. Like, there's just everything
that's it.
you can do.
But you've got your followers, you've got your platform, and you know, you have basically your lives are pretty good as well. So it's like, that's pretty cool too. Because
that was the thing, because it was like, so I made a Patreon and I was like, oh, I'm going to post like podcasts and things on there. But then I was like, oh, but I don't want not everyone to be able to watch it. You know, I want everyone to have access to everything. So it was like, I didn't want to just make it kind of private for just a certain amount of people. So I was really confused, like what avenue do I go down? What route do I go down? But then I realized I was doing it all on Instagram anyway. Like I was doing lives on Instagram. I was like getting people on the live sometimes. I was putting all my research on my story. So it was like, what more do I really need to be doing? I don't need to be overworking myself, sort of thing. Because definitely at the start of this, you know, when you first really start delving like down like different rabbit holes and you're just really in it and you just can't think of anything else, and it gets kind of draining and you just have to kind of like take that step back. That's what I had to do, for sure. And now I just feel a lot more like centered. So that's good.
Oh, that's amazing. And
very overwhelming, this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm super grateful for like definitely coming into contact with you. It was my sister who first, you know, showed me your page, and she's just kind of going through her awakening this year as well, and it's been very synchronistic. Like, you know, I feel like as a family we've really been getting to know each other through all this thing, and especially because we did ayahuasca together, and it just kind of broke down the barriers that were there beforehand. And then like we got home from it, and then like it like brought the rest of the family together, because we were on such a more honest and open place, you know. It just kind of brought us all together. So it's,
that's amazing. That's literally amazing. I've been trying to get my brother to try like ayahuasca or DMT, because he suffered with like severe mental health problems for like 6-7 years, but he doesn't even want to. And I'm like, this could help you. This could like factory reset. Like, you know, people feel like refreshed, rebooted. Like it's like a fresh new start. Like all of the shit gone, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't some people want to? But we'll see.
You can't force them. I know a few people who could do with it, and I've offered it, and it's just been a no. But look, the ones who want to heal will come when they're ready, you know. And that's it. It's a test, especially when you love people and you care about them so much. You kind of want to shake them, and be like, come on.
Yeah.
But you can't. It just doesn't work like that. And the harder you try, the more you push them the opposite way, you know. So it's just
that's
like,
so true. You got to let them just come to you. Yeah. But it's like, you know, when you can see someone going through something and you know that there could be like a easier way out for them, and it's just like, why don't they see that? But I guess, you know, everybody's on their own journey, everybody's like on their own path to healing their own traumas and awakening and really just opening their eyes to all of this stuff. So you can't really hurry people up. You know, sometimes like you're trying to educate people and stuff, and it's like they're like yeah, like they go along with the conversation, but you can tell that they're not actually really clicking.
They're not listening. They're waiting for you to stop talking so they can say what they want to say. You know, literally, like
for real. They're just there, like you can see in their eyes. It's that the four-eyed stare, just the you know, okay.
Yeah.
Is when I'm like getting people to watch documentaries at house parties and stuff, and then I'm
4 o'clock in the morning, you're trying to wake people up. They're like, I haven't even gone to sleep yet.
Never a better time than the present, I say.
There really isn't, is there?
Funny. No. All I just thinking is if I can like plant little seeds in enough people's minds, like that's it. They will soon sprout. They will soon.
And they will, absolutely. And you've been planting plenty so far, you know. So it's keep up the fucking good work. And you know what, dear, let's leave it there, because I got to go do some stuff to get ready for this evening and get prepared. And I think, this has been a great chat. I could definitely stay here and do a couple more hours, but this is the first of many for sure.
Yes, it was so nice to speak to you. We'll do it again. Like, we've got so much to talk about. I don't even feel like we've touched the surface.
No, we definitely haven't.
Go on for hours, but yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for inviting me on, and I'll speak to you
And thank
soon.
you for joining. All right.
All
Thank
good.
you.
Bye.
See you there. Bye. Bye.